meeting is open to the public, but with limited first come, first served seating due to COVID-19. All persons wishing to attend the meeting may do so by virtual means via YouTube, Sumter School District Board Meetings, and Sumter School District's Facebook page. At this time, we'll have our meditative thought, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vision. Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Mission. Sumter School District is committed
Can you hear them? I don't know if they're saying anything.
a safe, nurturing,
I
and
can't get that.
you can't hear?
Anita, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
So it shows.
See if she wants to come in. I should keep the unmuted. Hey, do you wanna, be on the phone, for hearing purposes if you can't hear us? Okay, you can stay, okay. I'm just stay on this line. Matt McLeod and Cheryl O'Neill are both on the same line, okay? Thank you.
Okay.
You'll wanna mute your phone. Mute your phone. Yes? Okay. Okay. All right, we can start.
All right. Mission. Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global successes. Mission of our committee. The mission of the Transportation Study Ad Hoc Committee is to ensure Sumter School District will provide transportation services that will allow opportunities for all children to arrive and depart school in a safe and efficient manner, while including the voice of all stakeholders. Our vision. Vision of the Transportation Study Ad Hoc Committee is to ensure all students enrolled in the Sumter School District will be provided with transportation that is safe and sufficient while supporting staff with growth opportunities to achieve the mission set forth by the Ad Hoc Committee. Our committee members are myself, Frank Baker, and I chair the committee. Also, we have Trustee Brian Austin, Trustee Matthew Mike McLeod, and Trustee Cheryl P. Ray. Our subcommittee members are Anita Hunter, Beverly Collier, Denise Jones, Jason Johnson, Teresa Sullivan, Valencia Gray Williams, and Alicia Case Rodriguez. Joining us tonight virtually are Matthew Mike McLeod and Cheryl P. Ray. Our subcommittee members joining us virtually tonight are Anita Hunter, Beverly Collier, Denise Jones, Teresa Sullivan, and Alicia Case Rodriguez. Staff members present tonight are our superintendent, Dr. Penelope E. Martin, and Knox and Amy Hanson, administrative manager to the superintendent of the Board of Trustees. At this point, I'll members out there, welcome to you if you are also participating in this meeting. Also, at this time, I will ask if there is any objection to the agenda. And if there are no objections to the agenda, then it will stand approved. Consent agenda. Approval of the minutes. Any corrections, deletions, or changes? Hearing none, then they will stand as presented. Now, the realignment committee, realignment update, review, and draft options, and at this time, we'll turn it over to Mr. Matthew Cropper.
It's actually going to be Mr. James Cooper.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's going to be Mr. James Cooper tonight, not Mr. Matthew Cropper. All right, Mr.
Yeah.
Cooper, it's yours.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Baker, and thank you, committee. Happy New Year. It's good to see everybody here in good health. We have a little bit to cover tonight, but it shouldn't hold you too long into your evening. So without further ado, I'll get started. So our goals tonight with this meeting, we want to review some of the input that we received via the public information sessions that were held from December 6th to the 8th. We gained a lot of valuable feedback and input from the public in various ways. And then we also have two new draft options, which will be named draft option 3 and 4 for naming purposes, that we'll review briefly and go over. That information is also going to be in your stat handout that you should have received, and is also going to be available via Sumter realignment.com. We also want to discuss and answer any questions about the project. We'd like to get some feedback from some of the members about maybe the conversations that they had with the public during the public information sessions. And then we want to determine if there are any particular adjustments or areas that we would like to alter to any of the 4 draft options that will be on hand tonight. A brief look at the timeline. We've covered a lot, started this work here in July, and here we are, have been through 2 public information sessions, and we're into the new year. This is our 5th meeting as a committee. And looking at what to look forward to, we have 2 meetings left in this process, and 1 more public information session there in February, before the presentation to recommendation to the school board that is expected to occur in March. So we're in the back nine of the process. We've done a lot of work here. We still have some work to do, some analyzing and potential adjustments to make. But the work that we've done so far has been valuable and good, and we're looking to eventually get to the point where we have a good consensus on a recommendation to present to the board. But just to give a little update since December 6th through the 8th, where we had those public information sessions. Those were held over a 3-day span concurrently. And we were able to garner some valuable information from the public at all 3 meetings in regards to their sentiment about the draft options, 1B and 2B, and as well as educate them on the overall process and work that has been done. Following the public information session that started on the 6th of December, a survey went live, and that survey was live from December the 6th to the 3rd this year, 2022, and it resulted in a total of 8 responses. We've also received 19 responses via the general feedback form in that same time span. So now we're looking at approximately over 120 total general feedback responses that we've gathered since the start of this realignment study. There were many conversations held around the maps with members of the public that were valuable to understand the concerns that the community may have in regards to the process or the draft options 1B and 2B that they were presented. We have a summary of the comments we always update those at every transportation committee meeting, prior to. So you can also access those summary of the comments from the general public via, sumterrealignment.com in order to get another, take at what the public is saying in regards to the draft options in the process. So, and tonight we have, the same draft options, 1B and 2B are still on the table, nothing has been taken off or, eliminated from contention. And then we've also developed, two new draft options, as I stated, option 3 and 4, that we would like you to review for your input. You should have received a handout of the statistics and maps for these new draft options. And then we also have that available online at sumterrealignment.com. We've also updated the interactive map, which is, you can get to the interactive map via crockermap.com/Sumter, where you'll also be able to see the current zone lines as well as all options, option 1B, 2B, and then now 3 and 4 have also been added to that for your resource. So just kind of want to go over a quick summary of the public information sessions. The public was invited to attend a series of those. We had those over a 3-day span, on consecutive evenings. And according to our rough estimates, it was about 130 people between all 3 nights of the public attended these public information sessions. And the intent of these sessions were to inform the public about the realignment process and discuss the thoughts and observations with the committee and consultants around the map. Which we've taken some notes, Matt Cropper and I, about some of the pertinent conversations that I'll go over with here in a few slides of some key points that I was able to gather from the public and some repeated comments that many members of the public have said to me and other members of the team during these processes. Like I said, the survey went live and it had 8 responses total. Although that number didn't yield the number of responses that we had hoped for or that we would typically expect from a district this size, we still were able to get some valuable feedback via the general feedback form, the survey as well, and then also primarily the conversations that we were having with members of the public around the maps. So some of the following topics were some pertinent topics that some of the members of the public brought to my attention and Matt. So I'll go over a few of these variables here, and then I would like to hear from any committee members if they have anything to say in regards to some of the conversations that they had around the maps. So one recurring theme was some of the members of the public were asking, hey, we like these options, but we'd like them to improve on high school demographics. When looking at option 1B and 2B. Another concern or variable that the public spoke about was expanding the Sumter High School boundaries to encompass more of the city limits, making them go a little bit further east, going across Main Street and trying to encompass more of the city limits, to kind of not completely go back to what the current zone line is for Sumter in that area, but to encompass more for neighborhood continuity. Another topic that was brought to our attention, and this is something that Mr. Cropper and I had noticed during our 3 days in Sumter, being able to drive around the district and get a feel for some of the distances traveled from certain areas, was the Rafkin Creek area, a very large area to the northwest region of the district, that in option 1B and 2B, we're considering moving that area to Sumter High School. One of the things that a couple of members of the public said that it's about the same distance in miles for the communities in the Rafkin Creek area to get to Crestwood High School versus Sumter High School. So that was good food for thought for us because at the time we're thinking that area is a necessity to move and impact those families in order to decrease transportation. But we're noticing that it's about 17 to 19 miles for particularly the Rafkin Creek area to get to Crestwood High School in Sumter. And it's about the same time travel as well. And then another variable that the public brought to our attention, as we spoke around with them around the maps, was they wanted to improve the equitable utilization while reducing the impact, which is the total numbers of students moved, which we do recognize that, especially at the high school level, these options are well into the 2000s when it comes to students and families that will be impacted by potential realignment. So that was a variable that we took note of, that we heard from the public, and we kind of took these variables and tried to implement them while still aligned to the realignment criteria. And that's what kind of led to the development of option 3 and 4 that we'll be going over here tonight. At this time, if anybody from the committee would like to say or speak about any conversations that they had with the public, around the maps, or any particular topics that were spoken about that they want to share with the rest of the committee?
Mr. Austin?
Mr. Cooper, you spoke up with the second one, expanding the Sumter High boundaries to encompass more of the Sumter city limits. I know a lot of conversation was around the historic district. Did I guess the option 3 and 4, did that take care of keeping that neighborhood together for the Sumter High community?
Yes. In some respects, we did in option 3 and 4, when I get to those slides, I'll kind of go to the interactive map to kind of show you in a little bit more detail. But we did look to have those communities, particularly kind of expanding like east of North Main Street, and then going more, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Lafayette Road, and trying to encompass more of those communities. We couldn't completely expand it to the point east, to the point where it's encompassing all of the city limits, just for utilization balance, and in other cases, we were going in the opposite direction of demographics that we would have hoped for. But these options that you'll see here tonight does kind of answer some of the public's concern, in particular with around North Main Street and that historic area within Sumter.
Other committee members have comments, questions, concerns to share, or feedback to give?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. We'll move on here to the review of the draft options. Just again, these are all drafts, nothing is set in stone, no decisions or voting has occurred or been made. We want you to look at these holistically and comparatively to one another, and really decipher and get into the details of the statistics and just the overall look of these boundaries as we review these draft options. So again, we have two new draft options. Option 1B and 2B are still on the table, and then we developed option 3 and 4. And these were created using option 2B as a template. So you'll see with option 3 and 4 that there's a great similarity between option 3 and 4 when it comes to 2B. But the big changes with option 3 and 4 compared to 2B is more at the high school level compared to the elementary and middle school level. Here, I'll go over here in a second, but in option 3, on the elementary school level, it's a mirror image of option 2B, so you should be relatively familiar with the boundaries for option 3 on the elementary school level. For elementary option 4, there's a slight change from 2B, and this is mainly done to align the feeder pattern splits between Willow Drive and Croswell Elementary. It particularly involves moving about 37 elementary school students that will currently be attending Willow Drive in option 2B to move them to option to Croswell Elementary in option 4. It's a very, very small minuscule change, but it helped align feeder patterns and prevented some irregular splits. And then also for a benefit for that community, it actually moved them slightly closer to the closer elementary school, which would be Croswell Elementary in this case. On the middle school level, there's some changes between option 2B and 3, and you'll mainly see these changes around between Alice Drive and Ebenezer Middle School. And I'll take a second here and actually jump to the interactive map that I think better shows where these changes occur. So you should be able to see here, just piggybacking off the elementary school changes, this is what the inner city, boundaries for option 2B for elementary are looking like. In option 3, they're the same, there aren't any changes, on that level. But in option 4 here, you'll see here, along North Main Street and Lafayette Drive, this community, in option 2B would be attending Willow Drive Elementary School to the west. But in option 4, we had this community attending Croswell Elementary School to the east. And then, like I said, this was primarily done for feeder pattern purposes, excuse me. And then when you're looking at option 3, the primary changes were done to Alice Drive and Ebenezer. So when looking at option 2B, you see Ebenezer actually extends below, US Route 370, that's 378 here. And then in option 3, we have Alice Drive, extending north, the boundaries to the north of Broad Street along US Route 378. And then it also extends a little bit more north to pick up this community here along Robert E. Graham Freeway. So it's a slight changes from 2B when it comes to looking at middle school option 3, but these are where the primary changes are occurring on the middle school level with option 3. Compared to option 4, here's 2B, and then in option 4, you see Ebenezer and Ebenezer extends south again, kind of mimicking what option 2B showed. But the other major changes that you'll see here for the middle school level for option 4 is that Alice Drive actually extends even further east, crossing over North Lafayette Boulevard, Drive, compared to option 2B. So just a subtle change there, and that was all for feeder pattern purposes, and better aligning those instances. Switch it back over here to the PowerPoint. So when looking at these these two new options here, you'll see most of the impacts and the greater changes are going to be done at the high school level. So this map here kind of gives you a good overview of what it looks like at the high school level for option 3. Some areas of change that I think should drive your attention to are the Crestwood High School line that extends down in this area. Along to the 378 west of Alice Drive. That's a change here that's very, very prominent in this option. And then also Lakewood High School boundary extending east past the railroad track all the way into Brewington Road. And this is another thing that we did with this option to help improve utilization balance between all the 3 high schools. And we do recognize that it does create a split at the middle school to high school level for R.E. Davis to Lakewood and Crestwood, but the split is near 50-50 for those kids at that school. So it's a favorable split, although it is a split here. So just looking at toggling back to the interactive map here, which really helps me and the public, I'm sure, and hopefully you understand some of the changes from these options and how they were built off of 2B. This here kind of shows where the boundaries are looking like for 2B, and then this shows 3. So you're not going to notice many change up here in the Rafting Creek area compared to 2B for high school option 3. But what you will notice is Lakewood extends east to Brewington, as stated before. Here's option 2B, and then here's option 3. So they're just encompassing a little bit more communities east of that for balance, and it also helps improve demographics as well. And then you'll also notice that this change here along Alice Drive compared to 2B. So here's what the options, the boundaries look like for high school option 2B. and then here's what they look like for 3. So it's a very small change, but just more area of, the Iles Drive Middle School area being picked up by Crestwood High School. The boundary for Crestwood High School is bounded by West Liberty Street and then Iles Drive, in option 3.
Mr. Cooper, may I ask you
Yes,
a
sir.
question? Under high school option 4, the first bullet there, Sumter High School line, I guess it should be follows Route 378 and north of 378, including Shore Air Force Base, remains at Crestwood High School. So I just want to be clear now, the base will feed into Crestwood High School.
Yes, the base will feed into Crestwood High School, which it currently does. So that area, piggybacks right into it. We're gonna go right here into option 4 and look at some of the changes here, where we look to try to condense a little bit, and reduce our impacts greatly at the high school level with this option, while also, aligning ourselves demographically for all 3 of the high schools and also making them equitable, in the utilization area. So yeah, you'll see here that Sumter High School, instead of Sumter High School previously extending all the way north, picking up a lot of Rafkin Creek area, in high school option 4, it's, we leave this area preserved and stays in Crestwood. So that means all these communities north of US 378, pretty much Shaw Base and everything north of that is staying, current to what it is. So they would all feed into Crestwood High School. And when you look at the numbers, this helped greatly decrease the impacts at the high school level. And we were able to do this while also preserving the demographics for all 3 high schools, as well as, we were able to preserve the demographics for all 3 high schools, as well as still make, a respectable improvement when it came to transportation, averages for all the high schools, with this option. Another change that you'll see here is in this option, compared to 2B, you'll see that Sumter High School doesn't pick as much up of the North Main Street and inner city area of Sumter. But in option 4 here, you'll see that Sumter High School boundary now extends further east and north. It actually extends past North Lafayette Drive in a certain area, to pick up these communities. And this was, like I said, this was driven by public input, as well as trying to better align, if we could accomplish some of these things that the public want, as well as better align some of the zones to better adhere to the realignment criteria with this option. Another thing you'll see in option 4 is, which is the same in option 3, is Lakewood extending a little bit more east into R.E. Davis past Brewington Road. So any initial gut reactions on these options, anything that you want to discuss? We definitely want to get your feedback, especially as it pertains to how you feel about the Rafkin Creek area staying in Crestwood in option 4, or do you feel that area is better suited for Sumter High School? And then also, what's the committee's reaction and sentiment on extending Sumter High School's boundary a little bit further east when it comes to the inner city past North Main Street?
Okay, committee members, whomever wishes to speak or give some feedback or input.
We understand it's a lot of detail. We have a few weeks before our next meeting, so we definitely have some time for you guys to dig into the details of it and look at the statistics in a more in-depth fashion. And it definitely will be able to give us feedback by next meeting. But I definitely wanted to, if there was anything that was more objective or you feel is very, very pertinent in your gut reaction on these options, us as a consultant and obviously the general committee would love to hear anybody's input.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know, I think you gave it to us online somewhere, but how many students would, options 3 and 4 impact for high school with these changes?
what options 3 and 4 impact for high school. So looking at the high school level for these options, option 3, the impacts go up slightly, because we're changing a few more areas, when it comes to Lakewood extending into, R.E. Davis territory. So we're looking at about 2,238 high school students being impacted by option 3. Comparatively, option 4, we get the impacts down to 1,413. So compared to some of the, compared to option 3 and 2B, option 4 is almost cutting that impact in half on the high school level.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions or concerns? All right, I'll move here to the score evaluations, and we developed this chart to kind of give a good understanding of how these options align to the realignment criteria, whether they improve or go in the opposite direction according to certain variables. So just a general overall consensus looking at this here. On the elementary school level, all these options are very, very comparable. There are small inclinations when it comes to an option, but overall, the options compare very, very similar on the elementary school level for all 4 options. On the middle school level, there are some changes here. Like you'll see option 3, the impacts go down significantly compared to option 1B and 2B. In option 4, we get the impacts down to 440 kids at the middle school level with option 3, while also still able to develop and create a good utilization, equitable utilization for all the middle schools. Another good factor that you'll see here looking at the score chart is looking how the transportation actually goes down for option 3. So that's another big variable that's driving this realignment that option 3 encompasses, and option 4 it also improves compared to current as well. Where option 4 kind of some areas that we know could be improved with option 4 when it comes to the feeder patterns. When you have a moment to look at the statistics, you'll see that there are a fair amount more of splits when it comes to option 4, and that was an area that, based on your feedback between now and next meeting, is something that we could potentially try to clean up on that level to get the feeder patterns up to a more respectable and better aligned with our criteria. But that's something that we have to dig into the details and get your feedback on ways that we potentially could improve option 4 to better align to our criteria. Here on the high school level, you'll see that both options 3 and 4 improve on the utilization, which is a big factor that we were trying to accomplish. As stated before, with Mrs. Clayton's question, option 4 cuts the impacts of total high school students in half compared to some of the other options. Distance-wise, we were looking at the average student transportation distance for these 2 options. For option 3, it does slightly go up, but it's very comparable to option 2B and 1B. So we're moving in the right direction. And then even option 4, while it goes up a lot more because we're moving that Shaw-based area and Crestwood area back into Crestwood, you'll see that the average student transportation actually goes up a lot. And one of the things that I noticed with my research was, while the Rafting Creek area north of Shaw Base is about the same distance traveled to get to Crestwood or to get to Sumter, which is 17 to 19 miles, when you start getting down here along Shaw in the Air Force Base, the distance to actually get to Sumter is about a 3 to 4 mile difference lower than it would be to try to get from Shaw to Crestwood. So that's where we start to notice, that's why our average student transportation for option 4 is going up and at the high school level, and it's primarily due to that pocket of communities around the Shaw Air Force Base being going back towards Crestwood, which actually would be further than for them to travel to Crestwood than it would be for them to travel to Sumter High School. But you'll see option 3 and 4, they improve upon on utilization, and then they also improve upon on demographics. you'll see that option 3 and 4 have the best scores out of all of the options when it comes to demographics at the high school level.
I have another question.
Yes.
There was a lot of confusion about the utilization, score, and maybe we've answered this at some point, but I don't think it would hurt to go over it again, but, I was wondering if you could explain, did you go by, blueprints or paperwork to get the number of classrooms with the number of students? Or did you talk to principals about the actual number of classrooms they have? Because many schools have converted classrooms to different things, and, I just was curious as to how that was, figured.
No, that's a good question. For this realignment study, no capacity analysis was done. No facility analysis was done. So our utilization numbers for this study is based off of, the district approved capacity numbers that were delivered to us at the beginning of the study. There was no researching of basically verifying those capacity numbers to their actual, the facility numbers to the actual amount of students that could be in that facility was not done. So all of our numbers are based off of the capacity figure numbers that, were delivered by the district to us. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
The first table, the previous table here, this is the option score table, which kind of summarizes and kind of gives a good understanding of how each of these options better aligns to the realignment criteria. And then there's the option rank table, which takes those scores and just ranks them. So since we're dealing with 4 options, you're gonna see particularly ranks of 1 to 4. In some cases, you may see only a rank of 1 to 3 because maybe 2 options are actually tied, so they would be tied for third place. But just looking at this and some numbers to pull out of here are looking at how well these options are compared to one another. So just looking at the overall option rate, option 3 has taken a new lead as the #1 ranked option as it pertains to how well it adheres to the realignment criteria, which is our goal with these options. Option 4, while it greatly decreases the impacts and it improves and it ranks the best on the high school level in particular, overall it's ranked 3rd and tied with option 1B. So it doesn't completely overrule option 1 or option 1B or 2B in this respect, but it's definitely respectable and deserves some of your consideration. And one of the big factors that I believe brings option 4 down in the rankings is due to the feeder patterns. There are some areas that we feel could be altered and cleaned up to better improve these feeder patterns, because right now on the elementary school to middle school feeder pattern, it ranks 4th of our options, and then also on the middle school level, it ranks 4th. So there are some areas that option 4 could improve upon in order to better align itself to the criteria. But we thought, given that it improves upon utilization and demographics, as well as greatly decreases the total impacts of kids, that it was a viable option to bring forth for your consideration. Any questions or concerns about the ranking or ranking tables or scores? Awesome. So again, all the statistics, when it comes to, estimated utilization numbers, impacts, feeder patterns, all the information is located in your statistical handout. And, between now and our next meeting, we're definitely hopeful that we'll get you as a committee will have a little bit more time to dig into the details of these statistics and examine these maps via the handout and also an interactive map, and can give us some valuable feedback going into our next meeting. Any questions?
Mr. Cooper,
Yes, sir.
this is Michael Todd. Have we looked at possibly, some of these way outlying schools that don't have a large population, closing those
It's a good question. Overall, we have not factored in school closings into any of these realignment options. That's up to the district and the school board if that was a route they want to take, but I don't believe that, it's absolutely necessary in particular with our district at the moment, with the district standing at the moment. But, overall, that has not been an option, and, that has not been a variable that we've implemented in any of our options. No school closings has been, recommended on our end.
Okay, all right, I just wondered if that was something we might need to look at, as far as how that would.
Yeah, yeah, that's good to know, good to know. Any, all right, well, if there's no other questions, just looking at our next steps, again, we have 2 weeks between our next meeting, that will be occurring on January 27th. Please take the time to dig into the statistical handouts, go on sumterrealignment.com, start reviewing some of the feedback forms, submissions, as well as other data in order to gain a good understanding of how the public feels, and then, kind of take the time over the next couple of weeks, to develop some notes, because our hope, is that at our next meeting on the 27th, that's our last meeting before, our next public information session on February 22nd. So our goal is to get down to one or maybe two options to go forth with, at that public information session, in February. So that's kind of our mindset. We have 4 options on the table at the moment. If we could dig into the details of it and get any notes on things that we would like to change, moving forward by next meeting, and then kind of get to a consensus on 1 or 2 options to bring forth, I would say that would be very beneficial to this process.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper, but before you go, let me come back to the committee one more time, and Dr. Martin Knox, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, at this time, they could be expressed to you, so you could be thinking about it for our next meeting.
Hey, this is Alicia Rodriguez. I just wanted to ask for the public information session, options, the new options 3 and 4, will you have some type of a summary of the changes from what they've previously seen until now? Because you described it very eloquently and I understood it as you were going through it. But you know how when we did it before, we had the maps up and we could look at it, and without a summary list of what some of those changes are, as we're talking to people in the audience and around the maps, it's kind of hard to keep them all together. So if we could have like a little cheat sheet of some of the changes from one option to the other, not necessarily how you did it, but just a little bit, so that, because there are some differences here that it would help just to be able to explain it as people may ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely, Ms. Rodriguez. That's a great question, and that's something that we could definitely provide. Given that by next meeting, we hope to get to a consensus on 1 to 2 options, whatever those 1 to 2 options are, we'll make sure that we provide you guys a good little bullet point on how those options were developed and what led to those boundaries being created. Just some good points, some good pointers that you would then, as a committee, be able to supplement you as you speak with the public. Absolutely.
Okay, other committee members are Dr. Martin Knox. Everybody else good? Silence, I guess, indicates that. All right, thank you, Mr. Cooper. He's gone.
He's still there.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Thank you, committee, and we'll be in talk soon.
All right, thank you, have a good night. Committee members, based on the information we received, I do not think that we would have any kind of recommendation to carry forward to our board at this point. Anybody? Okay, so we will not have a recommendation, we'll wait till our, next meeting and see what information is brought forward at that point. So, having said that, I again want to thank everyone for participating tonight, and keep encouraging people to give feedback, because that is what results in these changes and bringing new options forward. And in most cases, the citizens in these communities understand much more what the impact's going to be. So again, I encourage citizens to give us input and give feedback, so